All right, so let's talk Trump assassination.
I knew you were going to want to go here.
Well, a lot of people want to know.
Yes.
Like, what
this is what
going on
the
here?
people need.
And I don't know.
As you can see by my shirt, this was a gift from Rick, because he knows I hate politics. So it's got the blue donkey and the red elephant, and for those who can't see, and it's got a lamb right in between them in the forefront. And what does it say? It says, "My hope is in the Lamb."
That's right.
Revelation 7:17.
That's right. And that's
I don't like politics, but Rick does, and so he will have some good insight for you.
Well, and I understand that there's, that I guess the Bible and politics is intertwined all throughout history, and it's this balancing act, right, with being able to be spiritual, living in the spirit, but also having to contend with the fact that we live in the world. So how can we manage the future for our children, for our society? How can we, as believers, stand up and be counted as those that want to serve and want to help change things for the better? And I think that there are some patriots out there that want that, a lot of them. There's a lot of people that follow Trump and they think that Trump is the savior of the world. And I don't think that he's the savior of the world. I think he's the guy at this time that is being used to get some stuff done, and with whatever people like about Trump or not, he's a guy that gets stuff done. He gets hopped up on Diet Coke and just goes and starts getting some work done, and
well, I've said it a million times. Being the president of the United States is a job, and it is a very important job. And I don't personally care that much if I like their personality or not. I want them to be good at their job. Because if you take most CEOs out of most companies, you're not going to like them. You're not going to like everything about them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But if he's good at his job, which clearly the difference between then and now, he was good at his job. So I can give him that. I'm just not,
I think the hard part is for the American people is that we find that this is kind of a revolving door, of politics, is where you have this group that is trying to control things, right? They're trying to make the subjects versus the royals almost. Right. And then you have this other group that's trying to bring power back to the people, where it belongs, what the Constitution says. And there's always this pushback. And you saw this with Lincoln, he tried to push back and to change some things, and they shot him.
Like it.
Yeah. And then you saw it with Kennedy. He tried to do some things and he did some things. And the CIA, as you guys remember from our episodes that we did on that, the CIA was guilty in steering him wrong and not giving him all the information. And he was upset with them. And he said he's going to splatter.
Yeah, well, that would have worked too.
He's going to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter them into the wind, not splatter. But, to each their own.
Potato.
Right. So anyway, he was very passionate about this, and you have to ask yourself why, and so for this time, there's this group of people that have an inside view on what's really going on in the world, and they don't like it. But what do? The more that everybody says you got to wake up, it's time to wake up. This is the Great Awakening, all those things. But what does that really mean to wake up?
Right. Well, and there's that saying, knowledge without action is torture. So we have the knowledge, but if we don't have the action, then it's just torture. We're just, it's so frustrating.
So then you have to kind of consider all of the stuff that we were talking about before with MK Ultra and how we know that people have been brainwashed for a very long time. We know
the media conglomerate and what they're doing. It's pretty obvious. Most people know the media nonsense.
Yeah. It was painfully clear when we saw all those videos online of them all saying the same thing, and everybody's shocked by it. And we're just like, duh, this is the Illuminati or the cabal's propaganda arm. Mm-hmm. Really, it's one of their tentacles.
And it worked really well.
Yeah, and they've perfected
especially if they can make people afraid.
And they do that with lots of things. And we think about also like how they make us afraid, and then they give us an enemy, and then they have that enemy do something so that we attack them. So that there's war. All of these false flags are something that leads to another thing that leads to another thing. And it's all for the goal of typically to get us back to war, because they like the wars. They don't really care about losing humans. That's not a problem with them. As long as it's not them, and they, from what I understand, have already pretty much perfected their longevity of life. So they're not really worried about it. They've stockpiled all of their stuff they're the ones that have the bunkers and the adrenochrome and all of the things that they need to survive for a long time. And they've been doing that. And so
underground cities,
they don't care about going to war because it only makes them more money.
And if they finance both sides of the war, then they're coming out ahead, because those countries are either indebted or are paying back. I tend to think indebted, but
yeah. And so you have to wonder, like, what's going on? Is this all of this demonic activity, all of this stuff that we're seeing? Is this like the assassination attempt on Trump? Is this all like a hissing of a snake that's dying, a dying system?
What do you think that he was really shot at?
Oh, you mean?
I mean the actual assassination attempt.
Because there's a couple of different schools of thought on that, right? Did he even get shot that day? Because some people are saying that his ear right now, if you were to zoom in on it, it doesn't look like it took any damage. And it was
that's hard to say though, because being a wound care nurse, if it's a clean shot and it was taken very well care of, they can do what's called dermabond, which is basically like super glue for your skin. And remember after I had my C-section, they put that dermabond on there and it didn't look like I'd had my guts ripped out at all. It was great.
But you did.
But I did. I felt it. Just couldn't see it.
So the idea that he got shot or not is a big debate right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying that he wasn't shot. But then you have to ask, okay, Rick, if he wasn't shot, then who would have orchestrated
what's the motive
the fake one, right? Because you watch enough ID to know that there's got to be motive. There's got to be.
You've got to have a few components.
Yeah.
You got to have motive. You got to have opportunity. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things.
All you ladies know this. So we have to have somebody or something that would have to be motivating them, whoever they are, to fake it. Right. And the same thing is true to actually perform a real assassination.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So who would really be involved with that? And so that's a lot of the current narrative that's going on TV right now.
Speculation.
Is this, the investigations into the shooting?
But who's investigating this? Because your investigation is only as good as the information that has been collected and given to you.
And only as good as the investigators.
Right. And whatever their motive is, because everybody's got a motive.
Are these the same people that stormed Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate? Mm-hmm. I don't know, but they worked for the FBI. And a lot of people are saying that the FBI had a lot of people on site that day. There's people that are talking about a guy that zip-lined off of that water tower into the back and got into a Department of Agriculture SUV and took off, and some of the patriots followed him because they were like, hey, a couple of citizens got in and followed and realized that it was a government vehicle.
You've done a lot of, obviously you've been to war and you've done a lot of tactical training. Mm-hmm. So how does a guy in a situation like that get up on a roof like that an unsecured roof with a ladder just happens to be right there. Like, how does that happen? That doesn't.
It's not possible.
It doesn't.
That's why there's so many people that are actually paying attention and have a brain that are saying this didn't happen. There's no way that this happened. This is either extreme negligence on the Secret Service's part, which it does seem like there was quite a bit of negligence.
I mean, the lady with the gun seemed like she knew what she was doing.
Well,
I felt safe with her.
I did feel
Is it the same lady that just did the breakdancing video on the Olympics?
I think they might be the same lady. They were very similar in skill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If I would bet that lady wouldn't have found her holster that day. She wouldn't have found it.
I don't even think she knew she had it.
She was looking for it, but she couldn't find it. It was around there somewhere.
No. And, not to be weird or anything, but there is something to be said for women having a chest that you can't see around. So holsters have got to be in better locations, which is usually under the arm for a woman because it is hard to see around, depending on your
how
your blessings.
Pat is shaped.
Right.
So who knows if he was shot or not. A lot of people are taking it to the God, route where they're like, this is a miraculous thing. He moved his head like
like all the things that could have gone wrong but didn't. We just had a situation like that in our yard where we had a giant tree limb that just fell on our son's truck just as we sent him over to pick plums from a guy. Shout out to Tim, because thanks for the plums. They are amazing. So he went over to get plums and came back, and he opened his truck door, and whammo, giant limb came off of our giant tree on the side of the house.
Yeah.
And he never even parks over there. He parked over there because the parking in the front was taken.
Yeah.
And so that broke off his rearview mirror. Like, you start running back all the things that could have gone wrong. If Trump's head had been, a centimeter this way, or if he hadn't turned to look at this or whatever, like there's any number of things that could have. But I feel like, somebody that's going to not only try to assassinate the president, but get up there with the weapon, be in position, like they're gonna hit him. You know what I mean? Like,
there's no way. I mean,
just no way.
They've got 4 or 5 different shooters that they've put out. Mm-hmm. You've got all of these different angles, all these different people that are like, we were trying to tell people that this guy was going over there.
Yeah, for 3 minutes, that guy said he was on the radio with them.
Nobody's given him the all clear to go. It kind of gives me... the confusion of it kind of gives me January 6th vibes,
Like some false flag.
Yeah, like vibes. It was staged. There was a lot of like camera angle opportunities. That's
true.
A lot of the stuff that you saw with January 6th was a lot of feds that got put into the crowd and stoked the fire of the anger of the patriots on what happened. Mm-hmm. And so these instigators rile people up.
And we've talked about it many times. They're professionals. They get paid to do this. It's what.
And you didn't see
just to cause confusion.
You didn't see anybody at the Trump rally really get up and run off. There wasn't anybody that was like, "Oh my God," and start running. Everybody was just like standing there waiting to see what was going to happen next. And another thing I thought was weird is if it was real and Trump wouldn't have gotten up and put his head back up.
I thought the same thing. There, under no circumstances is the Secret Service going to let him pop his head out of the huddle. They're going to be having him on the ground and laying on top of him until they can get him out of there.
Yeah.
So you're right. That was very weird.
And the fact that he was like putting his fist in the air and he was like it was almost like it was a staged thing. It's something you see on a movie, right? Mm-hmm. We often look at real life as if it was
saw that on
a movie, but it's not. Real life is messy and you don't really catch it on camera. A lot of people catch it on camera nowadays because people can't put their phones down. But real life in a real situation like that, everybody's dropping down to the ground. People are scattering. Like, if there was gunshots and all that stuff, it's very hard for me to believe.
Look at the footage from the Las Vegas shooting that we did a deep dive into.
Yes.
There was so many hundreds of phones that were just on the ground because that's the first thing you drop.
Mm-hmm.
First thing you drop.
And people are just scattering. Gunfire everywhere. Yeah. People are scattering. You're telling me that all those Trump supporters just took all of that information, all those gunshots, saw him take it to the ear and fall to the ground and see the Secret Service converge on, and nobody's running. Nobody's going anywhere.
But wasn't there a gentleman in the crowd behind that got killed?
Yeah, and that's another thing is they say that.
But also Ashley Babbitt supposedly got killed, and we still don't know what happened to her.
No, Ashley Babbitt is one of those anomalies, right? She is the only person that died that day. Died, and I use air quotes because the other people that died later. If you take the guy that got hit,
it wasn't like a direct.
Yeah, they didn't die that day.
Yeah.
So on that day, technically, the only casualty, if you will, was Ashley Babbitt. Mm-hmm. And we know that whole thing was largely staged, right? And we've even heard, well, some of us have, that Nancy Pelosi has that phone call with her daughter where she actually discloses that it was all a setup to get those MAGA people, right. Get those patriots.
Teach us a lesson.
Because they don't want us to get power back. They don't want to give power back to the people because they've stolen it from us.
They don't want unity, period.
Right.
They don't want unity at all because that's bad news bears for them.
So what did they want to do to bring the most violence into a person's mind, if I'm just watching it on TV, what am I going to see that's going to make me go, oh my gosh, right? A lady trying to jump through a window and being shot and falling back and then having blood coming out. Like that's something that they can do in the movies very easily. And we don't know whether it actually happened or not. But then what happens is they get to tie that this person shot her, she died. They get to tie that to the whole story as leverage as to how violent it was. Right. Mm-hmm. And so now they have this situation where I was telling somebody the other day, you have Lincoln gets shot. We're trying to go in the right direction as a country. Lincoln gets shot. It gets overrun and we go right back to where we were. Mm-hmm. And then with Kennedy, everything gets back on track again and he gets shot and we go back to where we were. And then what's happening now? Trump's coming in and he's trying to make things better. He goes, I want to give the people back their nation, right? Because that's what the Constitution says. And you've lost your power. And everybody says, we don't want to have a civil war. We want to just
figure it out.
Yeah, let's just figure out this whole government thing. We don't need to kill each other. We don't need to be mad at each other. We just need to figure it out the way it works for, as many people as possible. We're not going to be able to help everybody perfectly, but that's not what they want to do. They always want to fight back and forth. Well, you've got a guy that's saying, make America great again. And his whole thing is, we don't want any war. We don't want any, inflation. We don't want all of these things. Mm-hmm. And all you hear from the talking head media weirdos is this guy is a rapist, a murderer, all of these different things. He doesn't pay his taxes. He's the devil from day one. But it's only because those are the thoughts that everybody's put in their heads. Right. That's the media's funneling all that information. So when we get to something like Trump being shot at, now what do we have in the perception of the culture? It kind of shifts their minds a little bit to where, okay, if somebody's trying to shoot at Trump, who is it?
Right.
Is it Iran?
It's always Russia.
Is it Russia? Is it Israel? Is it, there's all of these different things that come up, but nobody ever really asked the question, is it our own people?
Friendly fire.
Is it the Democratic people trying to take out, or these cabal actors trying to take out anything? And it doesn't have to be Donald Trump. And I want to make that very clear because people get really upset when I talk about Donald Trump as if I'm saying he's the savior of the world. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is anybody that's going to oppose their system is going to be taken out. And they do it with, they call it lawfare now, it's warfare using the legal system to just destroy you financially. And they take your time and your energy and your effort until you have nothing else because you don't even understand the rules of their game.
Yep.
That's one way that they do it. And they've been trying to do that with Trump this whole time. They tried impeachment and then they tried it again. Like, what is it about this guy that they're so mad about? And that's the thing that we all have to ask ourselves is we can't just say, okay, this is just kind of weird,
What is it, like an enemy of my enemy is a friend?
Yeah.
So why do they hate him so much?
Yeah. I mean, they're really trying to ruin this guy.
Besides that he's sometimes rude, but
well, people say that he's sometimes rude. I think he just says
I'm sometimes rude. Everybody's sometimes rude. Come on. You don't think Nancy Pelosi gets rude with her house cleaner if she misses a couple cobwebs? I bet she does.
She's usually drunk, so I'm sure she does.
She's like, those cobwebs look great.
I love spiders.
Can we color them pink?
So I think that this whole Trump assassination thing...
Jury's out?
The jury's out. But those are the questions that we have to ask.
That bothers me is that by the time we get any information, it's been filtered and filtered and filtered and filtered. So then we don't know what is accurate and what is not because it's very hard to find accurate reporting these days. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
I always ask people how did we get here? We started in 2020 where people were like, I see some abnormalities in the election. It looks like there's some election interference, election fraud. Right. We have January 6th. At the same time, we're having all of this stuff with this pandemic that's going on. Right. We've got this big thing. So you've got in the middle of a gigantic election that's pretty important. You've got this other thing that comes in and kind of distracts from it. It kind of distracts from it to where they had to separate everybody. You didn't have people being able to watch the polls as well as they normally did. You had all kinds of weird stuff going on. And it was convenient that there was also this pandemic going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so that really scared people, but it also taught people that there was this little bit of a dystopian mindset that these leaders could lock us down like this. And it is possible that the mayors and or the governors, I should say, of your states can just, put in emergency powers, as they call it. And they just tell you what to do. And they just change.
Well, and you have to think of it. I know you're a big technology guy, but you also have to think that's going to be a prime way that they can shut people down. Is like some of this AI stuff and, some of this other stuff. Well, it's exciting and kind of cool. And I tend to think of it like, oh, it could really help in the medical community and tactical for like our soldiers. And, it could be really cool. But then if we start doing stuff that they don't like, then they can really cause havoc. They can get into your bank accounts. They can, and some of that stuff people don't recover from.
And that's why I think it's really important to get rid of all of these bad actors. You can't give out any type of relevant type of, extra technology like AI or UFOs or advanced weapons or anything like that. We know that they have that technology, but they don't want to give it out because we're not
trustworthy.
Yeah.
Like the human race is not trustworthy. Have you guys seen iRobot? Come on.
Yeah, there's like no way.
Vicky was the problem the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen The Matrix?
Uh-huh.
Right? And it just takes some bad actors that get their hands on this technology and and push it in the direction that it doesn't need to go. So
then the other side of the coin is, so if the assassination attempt is bunk, and we don't think that it definitely didn't happen the way they said it happened, if it happened at all, then what else was going on behind the scenes?
So have
you heard any rumblings of things that were going on or other weird stuff? I know there's been a lot of stuff with stock market and a lot of stuff financially.
Yeah, so we have all of the BRICS nations, as we've talked about before, that have all signed on to this contract. All these nations have come together and said, we're going to adopt the gold standard. And so they're going to get rid of the dollar. So our money is crashing. We've said that a couple of times before on the podcast. We hit it really in depth when we talked about the Fed, the Federal Reserve, how it's neither federal nor reserve. And so right now what we're seeing is the stock markets are plummeting, like in Japan, in the UK, in the United States. And for those that aren't paying attention or don't see it, you should look into it because it's all over the place right now.
Right. Well, and I'm not a stock market person. That's not my thing. I'm not a numbers type of person. I do medical math, and that's about it. But I also know that the stock market drives the economy, so it matters.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't directly matter to me, because I'm not participating in the stock market. You know, your 401k and, you know, other stuff that you do have is participating, like it or not.
Yeah. And so when that crashes, you know, and I think it's going to, I don't think it cannot crash at this point.
Well, life is not sustainable like this. I mean, come on. People can't barely afford groceries. We have this little Scandinavian festival that we do in our little town every year. And people are up in arms about the prices of stuff this year. And it's like, well, have you seen how much a gallon of milk has gone up in price in the last year? Mm-hmm. A lot. And a lot of these booths and these vendors didn't make money last year because they didn't feel right raising their prices that much, but they had to. They have families they have to support. So it's like, it's not sustainable. At what point is it just people can't do it?
Yeah. And I think that point is really right now when it comes to gas and food and housing. I mean, our children can't even buy a house. That's where we're at with our country right now. Is we're getting to the point where our adult children are growing up and they can't move out and buy a house because they can't get a job. They can't go to college. They can't afford to do anything. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when we thought, you know, when we were younger and our friends were going to college, we thought they were poor college kids. Not compared to now. I mean, the economy now is insanely depressed. It's worse now than it was in the Great Depression. We just have more things. We just have a lot. It's easier for us to sustain,
right? Because
we've built systems. And so, but once those
and we have a false sense of security because we have credit right now that they didn't really have back then. And so what the average American has like $20-something thousand in credit card debt at least. So that's not right either. I mean, we're not. Yeah.
Yeah, we're slaves.
It's not sustainable because they're also charging 19, 20, 30% interest on some of them.
Yeah, so it can't sustain. It's going to crash. So the question is, what then happens when it crashes?
Right.
And then how do we deal with that? Well, these BRICS nations have already, you know, developed a new world system where they're saying we're good. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing or what you're waiting on. And so there's a large, you know, population that believes that there is this.
It's a financial component.
It is this financial component where you have to crash the financial system in order to basically, it's like the cornerstone of a building. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that's holding everything together. The entire cabal's livelihood is in this false narrative, this false banking system, just like everything else, right? The devil is a liar. Everything that we know about his world system is a lie. You know, we know that the earth is flat. Duh. We know that the money system is not what they say it is. It's falsely inflated. They're fake numbers. Mm-hmm. When everybody was coming over to America from England, it was a lot of gold to have to take over. So if your family had a lot of gold back then, or silver, that was what your wealth was in. Well, that's a lot to transport it over, the ocean and blah, blah, blah. So
not to mention pirates. Let's not forget pirates were a big thing back then.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of Expedition Unknown, and I know there's a lot of shipwrecks in the Caribbean.
That's right. So they would load these boats and they would give them a chit, that says this is what your wealth is, but it's not real money. It's just a note that is talking about what your money is.
The Knights Templar made all their money.
Yeah. And
I'll hold your money for you while you go to a war-torn country, and then you'll probably get killed along the way by, I don't know, people we know that are going to kill you because now we have all of your money.
Our friends that we've put out there and asked them to kill you so we can keep it.
Effective.
And that's what they do to us. And nothing has changed. They've convinced us to turn our solid assets into fake paper, and not only fake paper, but like fake computer money, like just numbers.
We don't even have paper anymore.
Just numbers on a page. A lot of us have a plastic card in our wallet that just transfers numbers.
You just tap it
from one place to another. And as long as this amount of numbers is higher than this amount of numbers, then you're able to support it. Like that's our system right now, is fake numbers.
But most Americans are 1 to 2 paychecks away from basically living on the street. Nothing.
Yeah, absolute ruin, because they don't have any assets. And then
people are, I just read an article. It was so sad. So when COVID happened, they did this, okay, we'll freeze your payment so you don't have to make your payment for X amount of time. Well, then what happens when you have to start making your payment again is they don't just take those payments and tack them on to the end. You're having to make like a payment and a half or a double payment or whatever. And they were basically taking advantage of people's fear at the time. And now it's even harder.
And how many reports are there now of all of those COVID handouts that were stolen and manipulated? I mean, they weaponized the medical community a long time ago, but this was so blatantly obvious that it's just for somebody like myself who not only has a lot of medical issues, but also has a lot of medical training. It's disgusting. Yeah. When everything has become about money, then what is our system really? Where is the love that we usually talk about with Christ? If you know Christ, then you will walk in love. That's what it is, because God is love, and nobody's seen God except for through Christ.
Right.
And we haven't even seen him. We just know of his example. And so if we're to be showing love to everybody, then this current money system where everybody's a slave and we're in bondage, it has to be completely destroyed. It's the only way that the American people and the world can really have a true freedom.
Sure.
Because
so do you think that this event, if we're going to call it a false flag or whatever, do you think that it was to distract people from something good that's happening with the finance? I mean, it seems bad, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who do you think orchestrated this whole thing?
So I think the military is in charge of the United States right now.
Okay.
So in order for there to be the United States as it is right now, the military had to step in, because there was a stolen election, and it was proven that it was stolen through lots of different ways, right? And it was proven through all of these different things that were going on back in the day. Remember, Mike Lindell was having all of his symposiums, and they were talking about how the stuff was connected to the internet by Wi-Fi, and they could change, and they were watching things change in real time. They proved all of that stuff. Well, I believe, and I think it's pretty apparent by some of the evidence that you can put together over time, but back then you wouldn't understand unless you were really paying attention. But at the end of Trump's presidency, he realized that when Pence, because that's what January 6th was all about, right? The Congress went in to either certify or decertify the election and either do a recount or whatever. And then they couldn't decide. So it was up to Pence, and it was Pence's choice to make the decision to certify it. And he decided to certify it, and it was up to him to not. And that's why all that nonsense went on that day, because they wanted to distract from the fact that they had stolen the election. And I don't know if they were not sure about Pence being completely on their side or what, but they wanted to make sure that they weren't going to do that. And so now that we know that the election was stolen, what is Trump to do, right? If you're the president of the United States of America and you know your military has come to you, you're the CIC, you're the commander in chief, and they've said they've stolen this election. What do? Well, you're in a constitutional crisis because that's treason, right? It's treason of, whoever was involved within the United States, and for all of those that are in foreign states, that's an act of war, right? To meddle in somebody else's election. So he's forced to either deal with it or not deal with it. Well, a terrible president would not deal with it. If you ask me, that's what Trump would be up until this point. If he just went out golfing and campaigning in 2024, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's what it looks like he's doing. But you have to remember, he never conceded the election. He never said that it's over. And he just continued on doing what he was doing. He set up his own website. He set up a whole, thing going on in Mar-a-Lago. And so a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that Trump never stopped being the president because we were in a constitutional crisis. So he used the presidential emergency action documents to put us into our continuity of government, meaning we are now under military control, and Trump, as the CIC, which is the highest person in the military, is running the country as the military, not as the broken system government. That's hard for a lot of people to understand, that the government, the United States government, is not a government. It's a corporation. Right. And that corporation,
and that we do know.
That corporation is proven to be set up in England as a corporation. And so when that was dissolved or made bankrupt, then all of the money that was going into the Federal Reserve, all of that stuff was being funneled through this fraudulent system, right? The IRS was the component that would bring the money in, and the Fed would throw the money out, and they lopsided the whole system. And we were the ones that, get the bad end of the stick. And so to get rid of that and to put the money back in the Treasury where it's supposed to go, you'll have to look back and see that Trump actually wrote a couple of different executive orders. One of them was, if you are anybody that had anything to do with election interference or any type of election integrity or any treason in that way, stealing elections, you're going to have if it's proven to be true, you're going to have all of your assets confiscated, and it's all going into the U.S. Treasury. Okay. So if they can prove that, then all those people are, out of all of their assets. The other one that he did was, if you have any involvement in human trafficking, any type of violations to children, any type of violations to crimes against humanity in any way, shape, or form. So like if anything comes out about COVID being a crime against humanity and those people are found to be guilty,
murder,
then they would have all their assets seized as well. So all of those assets would go into the U.S. Treasury. So that's a lot of money. If you think about all the people that may or may not have been complicit in COVID, lying to the American people on the news, all of the media, all of the people in Congress that are complicit, all the people foreign and domestic that know about all of the child trafficking, all of the gun running, all of the stuff that this cabal does, all of their assets can be seized and put into the U.S. Treasury. Well, if you guys are paying attention to what's going on with a lot of these celebrities and CEOs, and there's so many people that have stepped down and resigned from all over the world and all different companies. I mean, Jeff Bezos, we saw step down. We saw Jack Dorsey from Twitter a long time ago step down. We saw all these different people step down, and a lot of these celebrities are selling all their properties, right? They're selling all their homes. Everybody, they're all selling all their homes. Why are they selling all their homes? Why are they liquidating all of their assets? That's interesting, right? Maybe they're complicit in child trafficking, human trafficking, harm against minors. Well, all of that money, all of their assets are going into the U.S. Treasury. So you asked, is this a good financial thing or a bad financial thing? In my opinion, Trump is trying to fix the cabal issue that we have with the military, and they have a plan that is to wipe out all of these bad actors and install a better system for America that is led by the people. And the biggest thing that they have to take care of is this financial system. So at the same time that they're tearing down this system, they're also behind the scenes setting up another system that is better for everybody and not controlled by the cabal system. So that system is already being set up. So when this crash happens, we're going to have a bit of time that is going to be scary. Like, okay, what do? We don't have any money. Everybody runs to the bank. They run on the bank, which is exactly what happens every time the stock markets crash.
Clearly, we've proven that we're going to run on toilet paper.
We're going to run on toilet paper. We're going to run on the banks. Everybody's going to try to pull all the food and money and everything, and everybody's going to panic. And it's going to be scary for a little bit because nobody's going to really know what's going on with money. But
we don't really know what's going on with it right now anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, really know.
But we have to ask ourselves, if the United States doesn't join BRICS, what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
Are they not going to join? Is the United States not going to be part of BRICS and just say, well, sorry, guys, you guys all do gold standard. We're going to continue to do the dollar, even though it's dying. And whether you guys take the dollar or not, we'll probably survive. Like, there's no way. There's no way the United States of America would survive if all of these other countries, which they are, this is documented, they've all switched over to gold. If we don't switch over to gold, then we're not even a country anymore. We go from here to trash heap. Like we can't sell, buy, trade, do any of that because nobody's going to take the dollar. Yeah. And so there has to be something else going on. Mm-hmm. Either that or everybody that's at the top is so incompetent and we're all screwed. But that's not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing an incompetence. I'm seeing a very well orchestrated plan to wake people up from their sleep that these cabal people have put us in. They've put us in this slumber, right? Mm-hmm. Where we don't pay attention to anything. We just let them do what they're doing and we do what we're doing. As long as you leave us alone and we get to go jet ski and dirt bike and camp and, watch our TV shows and whatever we want to do, have our barbecues, everything's fine.
We're perpetually distracted.
But then we complain, right? We don't like our gas prices. We don't like our food prices. And then we get uncomfortable. And then something else happens and we get a little more uncomfortable. And then they shoot at the president. And all of a sudden people are like, wait a minute. What is going on here? Right? That's a pretty big wake up moment. That's one of those Ashley Babbitt moments when it adds to the narrative, mm-hmm. right? The shooting or the attempted assassination adds power to the narrative, right? Mm-hmm. And so now people are
really emotionally invested.
Yeah. Now people are on his side and they're wanting America to be better, right? Which is
I think goal. Everybody is tired of the kind of lawless, wild west way things have been going. There's no accountability, there's no justice, there's no, none of that. It's pretty lawless out there, really. If you can get out of your church and get out of your home and go look around, it's pretty bleak. Pretty bleak. But we have to get out of our holy huddle, instead of just hanging out with the church people. We've got to go out and see it in order for us to want to change. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. My friend Dr. Phil said that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's got a show. He's
kind of a big deal.
He's not a real doctor.
Neither is Jill. So, I don't know. I guess what I want to say is I just want people to not be so afraid. Like, if the internet goes out, if the internet goes down, it's because they're fixing it. If the financial system goes down and it seems like all is lost.
But even if they're not, if the internet goes down, we can survive. Like, come on. We not that long ago didn't even have technology, didn't even have light bulbs. Like, come on. Everybody should get, for fun, everybody should get a little flint and steel and practice with your kids in the backyard, because it's super fun. Mm-hmm. And I happen to be the best in my family. I'm not saying that I'm the awesomest in the family. I'm just saying that's my skill set.
Yeah.
It works for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're going with.
So I'm just saying, it's get some flint and steel, practice with your kids, teach them things, because kids these days think they know everything because they have a phone in their hand. But take the phone away and they don't even know how to use a hammer.
Yeah.
Like, it's really bad. I mean, they might know how to use a litter box, but they're not going to know how to flush a toilet.
It's true.
So anyway,
write that down.
Write that down. Teach your kids that we have opposable thumbs and we can flush the toilet.
We can do things. And that's this operation, right? Really asking people to think for themselves. Think. You have to ask your own questions. Our son Lincoln drives us nuts because he's always asking questions about things that he already knows the answer to.
He does.
And so it's like, why are you asking me that? But that's the thing, is for a long time, we haven't asked any questions. Why is the school board letting that happen? Uh-huh. Or why are these children doing a Satan class after school? Like, why are we doing that? And everybody just kind of lets things go by. It's like our pastor talked about the Good Samaritan, verse today, where, people just passing by on the road. Nobody wants to stop and help anybody. And not just passing by, but
crossing the road to get to the other side, because they're so over it. They don't even want to be on the same side.
Yeah.
They're like, excuse me, can you get out of the way?
This happens all the time. You got to step over these people. It's like, we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. Was that Dr. Phil too?
No, I think that was Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm. We have to be the ones that start to make these things happen within ourselves. Each and every Christian should be looking in the mirror saying, okay, if I want things to change, I need to start. What can I do? How can I be a part of that? I think JFK even mentioned,
You are name dropping a lot. You got a lot of buddies here. Okay.
He mentioned, it's not, don't ask yourself what your country can do for you. I wish I had like an eagle flying behind me right now and a flag.
You show old faded glory on your arm.
Yeah. It's not what your nation can do.
You can't even see it. This is a sad state of affairs for Rick's poor tattoo.
It's what you could do for your nation.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Well, yes. And I think all of this information is, we don't know. That's the thing, is we don't know for sure.
It's hard to swallow because it seems such a big deal.
Right.
We've never seen this happen before. In our generation, we've never seen the stock market completely crash and have to be like, oh my gosh, and I think we're probably going to see that. So we need to prepare ourselves. We need to not think like this could never happen to me, like they always say on TV right after their sister got murdered. Like, I never thought that this would happen to us.
You seem like such a nice guy.
Yeah, it happens.
Or every episode of Intervention that we
Kristin thinks everybody's a serial killer.
I'm just saying, it's definitely possible.
I guess it technically everybody could be. It's just
Everybody,
a couple decisions.
You need to look at the shoes. And don't just look at the outside. Look at the shoelaces. If people have dirty shoelaces, that's probably good because that means they haven't washed up recently. There's no blood there.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're like magic eraser, too clean, dead giveaway.
So like every teenager I see wearing Air Force Ones are serial killers.
It's possible.
It's possible.
I'm just saying.
So what's coming up?
Look into it.
What's coming up? We got the DNC coming up. That should be fun to watch. Check that out. We got Kamala just completely stealing the candidacy, just taking it.
Right. And
some fake
did
letter.
I hear this correctly? Probably. That she is not a naturalized citizen.
No.
So her parents were both immigrants from different countries, but they were both immigrants. She was born in America. So she's an American citizen, but she's not a naturalized citizen.
Yeah, they call that an anchor baby. So she was born here. So it's kind of one of those things that they always argue in the court later on. They don't want to talk about it now. It's like the whole Obama thing. Like,
yeah, the birth certificate, you mean?
Was he ever able to be the president? Was he ever supposed to be? No, he's a Kenyan. But that doesn't matter at the time because those are the things they're like, these are not the droids that you're looking for. It's like, what? This is important. These are important questions. Is this person a natural born citizen? Are they allowed to? And some people are arguing that she can't. Some people are arguing that she can. Well, the Supreme Court. I think it's pretty clear. Let's not talk about what the Supreme Court said. Let's talk about what the Constitution says. And she's not a natural born citizen. Just because she's born here, her parents weren't supposed to be here at the time. So it's weird.
We'll see.
I don't know. We might see Biden come back and be like, give me back my nomination. I want to be president again.
You might go and get a couple stem cell treatments and be like right as rain.
Or we might get the new guy, the 6'4" Biden that we saw after his little announcement.
Strange.
A lot of things going on, guys. A lot of things to pay attention to. A lot of symbolisms, a lot of connections to make. I know when I say Trump's still the president, people are like, oh my gosh, you're such a diehard, blah, blah, blah. This is a good thing, guys. It's a good thing that there is a group of military people that are taking care of us like they always have. Think back. Who was it that's always taking care of America? Who was it that's always gone and fighting these wars and standing up? And when they need the National Guard to go places, it's the military. So if anybody's going to take care of our nation, we can trust that the military is going to do it. They're going to do it, and they're not going to fail. Promise you. They're not going to fail. So if you don't put your trust in Trump, that's fine. If you don't put your trust in Q, great. If you don't put your trust in the military, that's fine. If you put your trust in God, that's where it needs to be. Because you have to ask yourself, is God going to give up on his people? Is he going to not listen to all the prayers that are going on in our nation right now for everybody? I mean, I know a lot of people that pray for our nation all the time. It's like, so where are all these prayers going? Do we not have a God that cares? I think we do. And I think we're all going to be surprised here pretty soon when we realize that he's been taking care of us secretly for a while now. And we're all right as rain. So...
right as rain.
Think about the things that you guys can do in your each and every day individual lives where you can see the things that need to be done for the kingdom. Don't just complain about the things that aren't happening the way that you like them. Because I can do that pretty easily.
And I found a new word. Well, I didn't find it, but I looked at what it is. And it's called flubbing. And it's when you are snubbing somebody by pulling out your phone and using
it. When you're not connecting to people with your eyes and your...
Yeah. So somebody's talking and you pull out your phone because either somebody texted you or you forgot you needed to transfer money or whatever. Like to be polite, you would wait until that person was done talking, but we do it so much now. And it does affect, relationships, marriages, that kind of thing. But it really comes into play with your kids when you do it to your kids. So we are having a no flubbing
challenge
challenge
going on in our home.
Yes. So we are going to make a very concerted effort, because that's something small that we can do.
No flubbing.
No flubbing. This is a no flubbing zone. If somebody could make me a sign to put on my front door, that would be great. No flubbing.
No explanation on what the word means. Just
that would be... No, they have to turn the sign over and then...
No flub zone.
No flub zone. Flubbing. It's snubbing with your phone.
It'll catch
It's
on.
a real thing. So...
Challenge yourselves,
Find something small that you can do. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
If you find yourself complaining about the government all the time, think about ways that you can
go to a school board meeting.
Not be so worldly and be a little more local.
Community.
Because there's things that you can do within your own community, people that you can help, things that you can do. Keep your finger on the pulse, obviously, of what's going on. You want to be engaged. You want to be praying for your leaders, for those in your nation that you think are doing a good job, and you want them to continue, asking God to, have his hand on the nation. These are all things that we can do each and every day. But building relationships within your own community and being a good example of service and love and all of those things, those are things that we can all do. So, whether the military comes in and swoops in and saves the day and we're all saved and this money system goes away and we're all, living in kumbaya land, great. I would love that. And that would be awesome. And we would give all glory to God, regardless of who did it, because we know that it was him that did it. On the other hand, if, we're all going down in a flaming ball of fecal matter, then, we can still cling to the promises of our Lord, that we know that we are in him, even when things are burning all around us, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were not going to bow, and so they got in the fire. It is what it is.
Got in the fire and got out of the fire.
Yeah, and they were joined by...
There was another in the fire. Ooh.
Well, that would be a good song, probably.
My friends over Hillsong, they made that song.
Oh, for you?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, I think we're going to wrap this one up. But so that's just a little bit of kind of current events, a little bit of us chatting, trying to give a little bit of hope, maybe.
And I wouldn't say we have like huge differences on politics, but we have very different ways that we look at things. But it's still important for me to listen to, your opinions on things, just like you listen to my opinions on things, even if we don't agree at the end of the day, which is fine.
It's great to find balance with your family members, with those around you on Facebook.
Just talk about it.
Fight.
Get fringy with your family. Get fringy with your friends.
And if people are pushing back on it, it's not the end of the world.
No.
You don't have to write them off. It's more of a just look for opportunities to just love them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes maybe they don't need to know. Maybe they just need to know that you care about them.
Mm-hmm. Or that you will listen to them. People so desperately just want to be heard. And they're doing it in all manner of ways, all manner of debauchery, but there's other ways for people to be heard. And we can do that. We can provide an ear or shoulder. If you're cold, I'll give you a jacket. If you're thirsty, I'll give you a drink. Kind of a thing.
Yep. When you do this to the least of these, you're doing it to Jesus.
You could be entertaining angels.
You never know, my friends. You never know. All right. We're going to get out of here. We love each and every one of you. We hope you're having a great day wherever you are in time and space listening to this. And
we'll see you on the next one. We're going to be back. I stole your line. But who does it better?
We'll see you on the next one.
We're done. Bye.